Hi guys, so buying rentals now for later on, for retiring on that rental income later on. So I talk to people a lot about this. Lots of people ring me. I suppose they feel they already have a plan and they maybe book a chat. They want to understand lower money down, adding value by refurbish, refinance, etc. So they book a chat. They generally have a fairly solid plan in their mind, which unfortunately I often ruin in the first conversation. So here's the challenges I see with buying rentals now to retire later on the income in Ireland. So obviously single lets are running at about 10% rental return. But if you, so obviously most of us understand if you have mortgages on those, you're not going to have enough income unless you have an awful lot of them. And a lot of people coming to this would already be in their 40s. They maybe want to go in 10 years. So they have deposits. They have a job which they can borrow from now. So normally all of that part is absolutely fine. But they, in their brain, are just computing the taxes kind of wrong. They're not allowing for the income tax factor properly. So they are saying, well, if I can buy something, let's keep it very simple. I know this will be outside Dublin, but double it for Dublin probably. If I can buy something for 120,000, get 10% rent, which is 1,000 a month, I'll be able to pay the mortgage, pay all of the costs. And you probably will, even on that single let. But here's the thing. If you take an interest-only mortgage, remember, you're going to still just have that couple of £100 left in 10 years' time when you want to retire. So that's not really feasible. So we're talking about taking 10 to 15-year mortgages on a capital and interest basis. So what problem does that give us? That gives us the problem that the capital part which you're paying out. So say we're going to pay 120,000. Let's say we are borrowing 70% of that. So 120 by 0.7 is 84,000. We're now having to pay back that 84,000 over a 15-year span, which is just 5,600 per annum. Remember that, yes, you might be able to afford to pay that out of your rent. Don't forget repairs, maintenance, managing agents, local property tax. But what about the fact that the 5,600 is not tax deductible? You can deduct your interest and your running costs from your rental income, but you can't deduct your capital payments. So this is the fatal flaw I see in most of the people who telephone me and tell me they're going to buy 5 buy-to-lets, they'll have them paid for in 15 years and they'll be ready to go then. And they suck up the tax bill every year. When I do these sums and I compare them to, say, hands-off investing, I could probably retire somebody in 5 years with the same amount of capital now. If they invested the capital hands off over a 5-year period with ourselves, they'll be getting 10% per annum, no loans, no income tax, could actually roll up that return to the end. So if I took in 100,000, I'd be giving back 150 in 5 years. And alongside that, I could train them in flips, assisted sales and strategies that will produce way in excess of the 10% single let return. So that is probably a more viable option. This idea that houses will pay for themselves, a single let will not pay for itself. Yes, if you get into HMOs and service accommodation and your yields are way higher than that, and you're able to add value to houses, that's when you're into the juicy stuff. That's what the full-time landlords are doing. That's how they're paying themselves. They have yields of 15, 16, 20 something percent on some of these units. But you're not going to just very handily buy 3 things, straight off the agent without getting them below market value, without maybe getting them off market and suddenly pay your mortgages. It's just not going to happen. If you bought them for cash, yeah, you'll have your 10% rent, but all those expenses will have to come out of it, which would beg the question, if you've that money to invest in cash, would you not be better to look at putting some of it hands off where there's no corresponding expenses? And learning, flips probably run at about 30% return per annum. We provide obviously full training on flips. Pop me a message if that's something you're interested in. Even deal packaging, you'll probably make more income than you would on a small buy-to-let portfolio. You either need to be into the really big juicy units or you need to be not there at all, in my mind. I have literally dealt with hundreds of people trying to exit the rental market who've 2 or 3 units. It's not viable at all unless they're paid for. And as I say, if they're paid for, would it not be more sensible to move some of that money into hands-off investing, get rid of the tenants, get rid of the risk of them going down in value, and get out of the day-to-day running of it? And we have structured some ways with people who've children that they want to put through college, where in fact the children are receiving some of those returns. Those children, once they get a PPS number, obviously, they have their own tax-free allowances. So forget about the old traditional way where people thought things would pay for themselves. I think they just weren't thinking through the income tax. The fact is nowadays, if you've another job, you're on roughly 50p tax, between tax, PRSI and the levies. And you'll be handing back a chunk of that. Even on that single buy-to-let example, I think the income tax would roughly be about 2,200 a year. And remember that you have to pay that income tax out of post-tax earnings. So you have to earn 4,500 to pay your income tax bill. Now, does that make any sense to you when it might or might not be going up in value? Having lived through the previous recession and dealt with about 400 solvency cases, I don't really agree with the school of thought that assures you that houses will double every 10 years. In some 10-year terms they will, but there's plenty of bumps in the road. So if you can't add value, get them at the right price, you have to try and create your own economy by doing those things. Do not assume that you're just going to buy houses and they'll pay for itself. And if you happen to be in that situation now, pop us a message and we'll see how we can help you out. Thanks a million. I hope this was useful.